Now, you've worked extensively to restore credibility to corporate governance and to the disclosure of information important to investors. Could you talk about the Disclosure Advisory Board, the New York Stock Exchange, and the increased responsibilities that are falling on public relations specialists? Is there movement in that level of trust for the public for those entities?
Trust is a tough thing, and the words around trust today, mostly coming out of governance, are transparency and disclosure. And to begin with, transparency and disclosure will not create trust. Just being able to know something is happening, or to open your jacket and say, if you really want to know what's happening, come look, is not enough. The objective has got to be someone actually understanding the risk of that product or that company or that issue. And so it's not unlike what we've always said in public relations. It's not sort of passing the ball, it's catching it. It's not enough to just put out a press release or to tell someone something unless they understand it. So disclosure and transparency are fine, but they're only the pass, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think number one, I think as a profession, much of our profession doesn't think that way. They think that disclosure and transparency is enough. It is clearly not enough. The second thing that's happening right now is the issue of governance. Corporate governance is such a huge thing. We've seen it with AIG and Lehman and everything else like that. And personally, I'm quite involved in it. I'm actually a regulator today with being on the board of governors of FINRA and the New York Stock Exchange Reg. It's not the old term back in the West, because I live in the West, of a regulator, which was after the Civil War. They came around and burned farms and stole people and stuff. But there are those who might say that's what regulators are. But the issue today for public relations is, I think much of our profession is missing this whole issue. Traditionally, it has been with the investor relations people. And unfortunately, I think most of the people in our profession today still think it's over there. The issue of board governance and the financial issues around it. And I think this is a huge mistake. What will be happening in the next year is we will have majority voting for directors. Today it's plurality voting, which means out of 6 million shareholders, if I vote for, my single vote is for a director, and the other 5,900,000 and whatever vote withhold, which is the only other choice, the director is elected under plurality voting. Under majority voting, the majority now actually have to vote this director in. Can you imagine the embarrassment in a company if a director is not voted in? And the investor relations people haven't got the skill base or the relationships that can work that campaign. So we're going to have majority voting. We have more and more disclosure. We're going to clean up the channels of communications between companies, boards of directors, and shareholders. All of this is going to happen in the next year, plus. And frankly, most of the people in our profession don't think that's their job. I'm very worried. I recently went back to my old alma mater, and I was asked to give a speech for Founders Day. I asked the president, by the way, had she looked at my record at the college. She had said no, and I said, well, don't, or you'll not invite me. So it was sort of wonderful to go back in that capacity, knowing that it was not my finest years. But I was asked by a lot of students, so what's happened in 50 years? Because that was 50 years since I had been back there. Mm-hmm. And this profession probably has changed more in the last 10 years or 5 years than it did in the 30 or 40 years before that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when you think about it, I mean, first, obviously, the whole issue of media. When I got into this business was media relations. The only way you talked to your constituencies was through the media, your shareholders, your employees even, and certainly your customers. And people believed what the media said. They didn't believe what we said, but if the media, it was the whole thing. Well, if the media repeats it, everybody believes it. What's happened today? People do not believe what the media is saying. The research is very clear They believe that the media really doesn't understand business and comes to the table with a skewed thought about business, an opinion. They actually believe what businesses say today versus what the media says. They want the source. They don't want people to interpret information for them. This is an enormous change. Again, much of our profession understands that. Some of it doesn't. There are still media-centric places in public relations, and it's an old school, dying part of our business, truly. Social media, obviously, is the living part. Transparency, we've talked about. There are no secrets left. There used to be secrets. There are none. You can't keep them. And that's changed what we do. Diversity, certainly. We've gone from concentration on content and people spending hours and days editing pieces of work to distribution is now the issue. Content is important, but it's more, can I get it to you? And then can I get it to you in the right form at the right time? People that came into this business used to be journalists. That was we hired them out of journalism schools, we hired them from newspapers. Today, they're all coming out of business schools. Right. If you can't read a balance sheet, frankly, you can't do business as a PR anymore. So the business has changed enormously. And I think some of the problems we've got are some of our academic programs and the people teaching them don't understand it's changed that much. And there's some people in our profession who are fairly important positions who don't really realize it because they're still back to the way things used to be done. The big question is what's going to happen next?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's going to be great.
It definitely will be interesting.
I mean, this profession is getting more and more important. It is getting, because of the changes. It used to be fairly easy. If I can get if I can get someone as a reporter to repeat what I had to say about my organization, my job was done. Everybody believed them. I got a pat on the back, a raise, and a decent bonus. Today, it's not that easy. First off, there's more diversity in my audience. There's more ways to get to them. They have all the information about us, not just what I've just given to the media. The job is getting tougher, therefore it's getting way more important.
The Page Center has a PR firm that's kind of helping us get the word out about our scholars and the results of their findings and so forth. And I have been amazed with the releases, the reaction to that, the blogs, and the websites that are responding. It's absolutely amazing. Every day I get multiple emails. Well, here it's mentioned here and here, and it's amazing. News just travels very quickly.
Well, and they can look behind it.
Yes.
That's the good news, bad news. Is we tell people what we're doing or how we're doing something, and they can look behind it. They can see what's driving it. They can actually look at the people who are driving it, understand, are they credible or not? What's their background? This never happened before. Again, it makes the job more difficult, but it takes a skill base that didn't exist 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The social media is the new hot thing. It's the blogs and Twitter and all this stuff, and that's fine. And some people are organizing that well, and some people are not. They're just putting it out there. It's because if we thought reporters had an opinion when they did something, blogs and everything else, the internet has way more opinions, and you have to deal with that.